From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. This is Dateline Malacañang. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. and Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Manet on Monday witnessed the signing of 3 landmark agreements aimed at strengthening security, education, and connectivity between the Philippines and Cambodia. The agreements, signed in Phnom Penh during President Marcos's 3-day state visit, cover enhanced police cooperation against transnational crime, exchanges in higher education, and expanded air connectivity between the two countries. The first is an amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, between the Philippine National Police, or PNP, and the Cambodian National Police, which now specifies deeper cooperation on human trafficking, arms trafficking, and cybercrime with an automatic renewal clause. The second is an MOU on higher education cooperation between the Commission on Higher Education, or CHED, and Cambodia's Ministry of Education, Youth and Sport. This provides for exchanges of officials and training programs, as well as joint initiatives in science, technology, and innovation. The third is a new air services agreement, allowing designated airlines of both countries to enter into code-sharing alliances, operate charter flights, and exercise Fifth Freedom rights, enabling carriers to transport passengers and cargo between the Philippines and Cambodia with a stop in a third country. The deals complement the leaders' pledge to intensify cooperation against human trafficking, cybercrime, illicit drugs, and other cross-border threats. They also agreed to pursue stronger linkages in trade, agriculture, renewable energy, digital economy, and people-to-people exchanges. President Marcos's visit is the first state visit by a Philippine president to Cambodia in nearly 9 years. It comes as Manila prepares to assume the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, chairmanship in 2026 and campaign for a non-permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council. Let us listen to the statement of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Let me express, first of all, my sincere gratitude to the Kingdom of Cambodia, its government, and its people for the warm welcome and gracious hospitality that has been extended to me and the entire Philippine delegation. Cambodia is a country with which the Philippines shares centuries of civilizational and cultural bonds. I'm deeply honored to carry with me the goodwill and friendship of the Filipino nation on this state visit. Our meeting today involved a wide-ranging discussion on how our countries can effectively improve in meaningful and impactful ways the lives of our peoples. We recognize that the growth and resilience of our economies depends on opening new avenues of cooperation, expanding opportunities in trade, agriculture, renewable energy, and the digital economy. By broadening these linkages, we give our peoples more opportunities. We also ensure that our region is less vulnerable to the effects of external uncertainties. In this endeavor, I wish to emphasize that the Philippines stands as a steadfast partner in opening new avenues for collaboration and to strengthen the ties in areas that matter most to Filipinos and Cambodians alike. We also acknowledge the pressing challenges that cut across borders: human trafficking, cybercrime, illicit drugs, and other transnational threats. These dangers affect the safety of our citizens and the stability of our societies. It is in this spirit that we agreed to strengthen collaboration among our law enforcement and security institutions so that our collective response will be swift, coordinated, and effective. We also emphasize the importance of strengthening ties between our peoples, with the hope of facilitating more seamless and frequent travel between our two countries. There are more than 7,000 working Filipinos in Cambodia, contributing mainly in the health, education, and development sectors of the country. They are a wonderful bridge between our two countries and cultures, and in turn, we welcome the appreciation of Cambodians for Philippine culture, education, and enterprise. We are excited to see even more exchanges and visits between our two peoples. As fellow ASEAN member states, we share the duty of safeguarding ASEAN centrality and unity amidst regional and global challenges. I deeply appreciate Cambodia's steadfast support for the Philippines as we prepare to assume the chairship of ASEAN in 2026, as well as for our bid for a non-permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council. Our discussions today signals a new phase in the partnership between the Philippines and Cambodia, one that embraces greater economic opportunities, deeper cooperation on matters of security, and the common resolve to uphold peace and stability in our region. Thank you.
That was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. rallied Filipino and Cambodian business leaders to take the lead in driving growth, innovation, and inclusive prosperity, stressing that the private sector is at the forefront of shaping the future of both nations. Speaking at the Philippines-Cambodia CEO B2B Networking Roundtable in Phnom Penh, President Marcos said trade between the two countries, which reached $105.69 million in 2024, reflects rising trust. The president also urged business leaders to go further by tapping untapped sectors such as healthcare, education, logistics, agro-processing, and digital services. President Marcos likewise assured investors that Manila is committed to creating a conducive environment for doing business, while tasking the private sector to generate jobs, introduce technology, and deliver lasting impact on the ground. The chief executive's Cambodia state visit has already produced agreements on police cooperation, higher education, and air services, with President Marcos framing the outcomes as part of a strategic, forward-looking partnership that would also bolster the Philippines' preparations for its Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN chairmanship in 2026.
This progress affirms the effectiveness of our shared efforts in trade facilitation, policy alignment, and stronger private sector engagement. However, we cannot and should not rest on this momentum. There remains significant room to grow, untapped potential to explore, and opportunities that we must seize together. With continued collaboration, I am confident that our economic ties will expand further. The future of our relationship lies not only in traditional industries, but also in emerging high-impact sectors that will define the next phase of our development. We are especially focused on expanding cooperation in sectors such as consumer goods, education, healthcare, franchising, infrastructure, agro-processing, and logistics. These industries are critical drivers of both economic modernization and social development. They are fully aligned with our national development goals, and they also reflect global trends in innovation, in sustainability, and digital transformation. At the core of this economic vision is a firm belief that development must be rooted in partnership, not just between governments, but more critically between our private sectors, which possesses the capabilities to drive innovation, efficiency, and inclusive growth.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has vowed that the government's crackdown on anomalous flood control projects will not end until the big fish behind the schemes are held accountable. In his latest podcast episode, aired Monday, the president said accountability will not spare anyone, even his political allies. President Marcos also said Congress may proceed with its own inquiries, but the executive will rely on an independent commission he is organizing. The chief executive assured that all organs of government would support the investigation. President Marcos earlier said he will announce in the coming days the members of the three-man independent commission that will look into the alleged anomalies in flood control projects. The body, President Marcos said, will be given all the necessary powers to get to the bottom of the issue.
Until we solve the problem. Yung dapat natin pipilahan ng kaso, may ebidensya tayo na matibay, unang-una. Pangalawa, na kapag sila na out of action na, ay talagang magbabago. Dahil sila talaga nagpapatakbo. So, I suppose the description that sometimes we use, yung big fish talaga, yung talagang nagpapatakbo nitong sistema na ito. Yun. Kasi pag hindi mo mabubuwag yung sistema yan, hanggat tinanggal mo yung mga player na yan. So, tatanggalin natin yung mga player na yon. At kahit sino man sila, para maging maayos ang patakbo ng sistema. Wala talaga tayong magagawa eh. We have the truth has to come out. Kaya nagkaganto dahil pinabayaan eh. We look the other way, nagbulag-bulagan tayo, diba? Nagbibingi-bingihan tayo, wala tayong naririnig. Kaya tayo nang gaganto. Ba't natin babalik kayo? Ay, hindi, wala kaming alam dyan. Wala naman kaming naririnig.
Meantime, President Marcos Jr. said the 2026 national budget will no longer carry new allocations for flood control projects, saying the 350 billion pesos in funds from 2025 remain unspent. The president said the Department of Budget and Management, or DBM, and Department of Public Works and Highways, or DPWH, will resend to Congress the revised budget proposal for 2026. The chief executive assured that flood control projects would continue, but with stricter scrutiny. President Marcos added that contractors must fix their defective projects at their cost before the government considers further engagement. The Philippine president also dismissed calls by some lawmakers to return to sender the proposed 2026 National Expenditure Program, or NEP, saying only the DPWH budget would be revised.
Number one, we already are seeing na lahat ng flood control project na dapat nilalagay sa 2026 na budget, hindi na siguro kailangan. So there will be no budget for 2026 for flood control. Dahil meron naman 350 billion for 2025 na hindi pa nauubos talaga. So, tuloy-tuloy pa yung trabaho. Hindi naman ibig sabihin, titigil natin yung flood control project, mga flood control project. Ibig sabihin, titiyakin na ngayon natin na ang paggastos tama, ang pag-implement tama, maayos ang design, etc., etc. And then, how do we do this? Sinasabi ko nga, interesado ko na makipag-usap tayo sa mga contractor na tapusin nila. Ayusin nila. O di mag-usap kami after that. Pero before that, ayusin nila, buuhin nila. Up to specification. At their cost, wag naman sila don't expect the government to pay for it. Ayusin nila yung project nila.
Oo nga.
O di sige, mag-usap tayo after that.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Still on Monday, Malacañang urged controversial contractors Pacifico Curly and Cesara Rowena Sara Discaya to substantiate their claims linking lawmakers and government officials to anomalous flood control projects, saying President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. supports a full investigation but not baseless accusations.
Ang nais naman din po ng Pangulo ay malawakang pag-iimbestiga at malaman natin talaga ang katotohanan. At ang ayaw lang naman ng Pangulo kung mag-name drop ng walang ebidensya, pero kung malaki po talaga at mapapatunayan na mga tetestigo kaugnay dito sa mga di umanong kaugnayan na ibang mga politiko, yan naman po ay tatanggapin ng Pangulo para isama sa ebidensya kung ano man at sino man ang dapat masampahan ng kaso.
A press briefing in Cambodia, where the president is on a 3-day state visit, Palace Press Officer Claire Caso stressed that if credible witnesses can prove alleged links of some lawmakers and local officials to anomalous projects, the president would accept the evidence for possible inclusion in cases to be filed. She added that the palace is open to granting protection to the Diskaya couple, who earlier hinted at turning state witnesses. The palace official, however, cautioned against selective revelations, citing Sara Diskaya's earlier claim that their flood control contracts began in 2016.
Pero sana nga po, ang gusto natin madinig sa lahat ay yung mga kailan, yung kabuuang kwento. Baka kasi nagiging selective lang sila at wala tayo nakikitang kailan nag-start ang pakikipag-usap dito. Ito lang bang mga taong to starting, well, admittedly sinabi nila 2016 sila nag-start sa flood control projects. Ito during the hearing sa Senado. So ito bang mga binanggit nila from the time ng 2016 o ngayon lang? Meron bang naprotektahan o selective lang? So, kailangan natin ng kabuuang kwento rin. At makakatulong po ito. Ito mga nabanggit po ng mga Diskaya ay makakatulong. Pero mas gusto po natin ay kompleto. Para kung sino man lahat ang maaaring involved, maisama.
Diskayas, who are linked to several blacklisted contractors, claimed they had dealings with influential politicians and government officials during a Senate inquiry on flood control project anomalies. They named lawmakers and officials allegedly asking for kickbacks.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other developments, the International Criminal Court, or ICC, has postponed the start of the confirmation of charges hearing against former President Rodrigo Duterte that was originally scheduled later this month. This was after the defense panel requested for an adjournment on the grounds that 80-year-old Duterte is not fit to stand trial. In a decision issued on Monday, Pre-Trial Chamber 1, with Judge Maria del Socorro Flores Liera dissenting, ruled to delay the proceedings, which was supposed to begin on September 23rd. The majority of the chamber agreed that a limited postponement was necessary to allow time to adjudicate the defense team's request and other related matters. A new hearing date will be determined after these issues are addressed. Flores Liera issued a dissenting opinion, stating that the defense's request should have been denied and the confirmation hearing should have proceeded as scheduled. The confirmation of charges hearing, a key step in ICC proceedings, intends to determine whether there is sufficient evidence to establish substantial grounds that the accused committed the alleged crimes. If the charges are confirmed, the case will move to a trial chamber for the next phase of proceedings. The ICC issued a warrant of arrest against Duterte on March 7, 2025 for crimes against humanity including murder, torture, and rape allegedly committed in the Philippines between November 1, 2011 and March 16, 2019. Duterte was arrested by Philippine authorities and surrendered to the ICC on March 12, 2025. He made his initial appearance before the ICC via video link on March 14, 2025, as authorized by the court.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, Senator Vicente Tito Soto III on Monday reclaimed the position of Senate President, replacing Senator Francis Cheese Escudero, ensuring cooperation with the current administration while remaining an independent body, fighting corruption and upholding transparency and true accountability. In his acceptance speech, Soto emphasized the rage of the Filipino people against massive corruption and vowed to lead the Senate with balance and transparency. Soto recalled how the chamber opposed unconstitutional budget realignments during his previous term as Senate President. Meanwhile, Senate President Soto also emphasized that his role is not to act as superior but as primus inter pares, or first among equals.
Our people are enraged of corruption. Corruption that is now seen, heard, and felt by the Filipinos more than ever. The failed flood control projects that's supposed to protect the lives, livelihood, and properties of our countrymen, the dilapidated classrooms for our students, and the lack of quality farm-to-market roads to aid our farmers, all are engulfed in corruption, hindering the progress of the nation as a whole. In 2018, the Senate, when I was Senate President, firmly stood in its ground, opposing the unconstitutional realignments made in the 2019 budget after the Bicameral Conference Committee report was ratified. These realignments amounting to 75 billion pesos were vetoed by then-President Duterte in accordance to the Senate's appeal and findings. Also, the funding of the free tertiary education, which triggered the law of Senator Makpayo and the others, is the result of the strict scrutiny of the budget by Senator Pampilo Lacson, where he found some floating budget amounting to 8.3 billion pesos in 2017. Mr. President, corruption is now perceived by our people to be in the whole of government. But with the political will of those in position and together with the vigilance and clamor from the public, we can fight this and bring transparency and true accountability that our nation deserves.
Escudero, meanwhile, thanked his colleagues and the Senate staff for their support during his leadership as he assured respect for the decision of the majority. Senator Escudero said the Senate did not shy away from confronting difficult questions and unearthed corruption during his tenure. He also expressed hope that the Senate's spirit of transparency will continue and reminded the public that accountability is not a mere empty rhetoric but a duty that may be upheld. Following Soto's election, the Senate also named Senator Panfilo Lacson as Senate President pro tempore and Senator Juan Miguel Zubiri as the Majority Leader. House Speaker Ferdinand Martin Romualdez congratulated Soto for reclaiming the Senate presidency. He said the House of Representatives is eager to work side by side with Soto and their colleagues in the Senate.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, Radyo Pilipinas World Service of the Presidential Broadcast Service is live on audio streaming. Just download Evox PBS Receiver on your Google Play Store or the App Store from your Apple phone. You can also visit our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Just type in and search for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our posts as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and stay safe.
from the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.